Good morning. I'm Marya, Dantzer, and I'm today's worship associate. I think Steve has given me enough courage to pretend that I can say something with, or at least read something with authority about gardening. And our opening words this morning are by Marge Piercy, the Seven Pentacles of Marge Piercy. Under a sky the color of pea soup, she is looking at her work, growing away there actively, thickly like grapevines or pole beans. As things grow in the real world, slowly enough, if you tend them properly, if you mulch, if you water, if you provide birds that eat insects a home and winter food, if the sun shines and you pick off caterpillars, if the praying mantis comes and the ladybugs and the bees, then the plants flourish, but at their own internal clock. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot tell always by looking what is happening. More than half the tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections. Create real nodes. Build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in. A thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us, interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and lairs. Live as if you liked yourself, and it may happen. Reach out. Keep reaching out. Keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always, for every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. Thank you.
Welcome to First Parish in Bedford, a Unitarian Universalist congregation where we come together as a people with diverse beliefs and a shared commitment to more peace, love, and justice in this world. Whoever you are, whoever you love, whether you worship one God, many gods, or no God, you are welcome here. I want to say a special welcome to visitors this morning and on Zoom, and of course we have many visitors who might not usually come to First Parish in Bedford, thanks to our Summer Worship Consortium, which we are participating in this summer. It's a new program, and I'm so delighted that Reverend Ann Mason in Lexington got this going. So if you're here from First Parish Concord, First Parish Lexington, First Parish Lincoln, First Parish Waltham, you are so welcome, whether in person or on Zoom. And if you are here interested in First Parish in Bedford specifically, you can fill out a blue connections card in the pew or in the link in the chat on Zoom so we can connect more fully with you. And I don't think I see any little ones other than my little one, but we do have a nursery care provider available, so we have that on site. And we will have community hour in the common room, which is just across the hall. Our next service that will be here at First Parish will be lay-led by Doug Muter next week, and the next consortium service for those following the consortium schedule is at First Parish in Lexington. So I recommend checking that out. And now we will rise in body or in spirit to share in our unison affirmation that we say each week in both English and in Spanish. We began that practice years ago when we took in a Spanish-speaking sanctuary guest, and we continue to this day. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en espíritu de amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. And you can stay risen if you are risen in body, or stay risen in your spirit, because we will be singing a hymn. We'll be singing our opening hymn in our gray or cloth-covered hymnal, Earth Was Given as a Garden, number 207. Doug Mooter reminded me that he is leading a service on August 11th, which is not next week. I may have given you faulty information about First Parish in Lexington, too. I don't know. It's summer, and I've lost a little bit of track of time, so stay tuned to wherever you get your worship information, your email list, your church website, and find accurate info there.
We have 3 readings this morning. This is the first one. And as you can see in the order of service, it is by Ross Gay, I believe. Yes. from the book Inciting Joy. For example, if we were to take a very quick tour of this garden in a few months, I could point out to you just how many plants have been given to us. Over here in the herb bed, growing within the lemon balm and chamomile, are the Egyptian onions Amy gave us. Bryce gave us the black raspberries under the crabapple tree. The figs and the goji back by the garage come from my friend Jay's father, Mr. Lowe. The mulberry tree the goji climbs up into comes, I suspect, from a bird who generously planted it with a dollop of poop. Jessica gave us the daffodils. My friend Ada sent some sweetgrass, the roots diapered in moist paper towels, which now grows out front next to the comfrey Jamie gave us. The stand of peonies next to them were dropped off over a decade ago as a housewarming gift by someone whose name I have forgotten. Wait, Andy. His name is Andy. And those flowers make one of my favorite smells on this earth, as does the star magnolia Crystal gave us. And the lily was given by my mother, which she even helped me plant. Among gardeners, I have noticed, there is a near constant, if subtle, chatter, asking what you need, asking for help, asking, do you have any, asking, could you use this? One day, Roro texts, hey, do you have a few heads of garlic? The next day, she calls to say she found a big stand of serviceberry bushes she wants to show me. One day, Bunny asks, can I get a few of those sweet potatoes? The next, he says, I got a haul of chicken of the woods, let me bring it by. Amy tells us we should come harvest some of her persimmons. And I bring some of these purple hot peppers that are coming up like crazy. Or, and perhaps this is creme de creme, when our friend Katie gives us a packet of seeds she saved from tomatoes we'd given her that were to us as seedlings by our friend Mark. Back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth it goes. And why is this back and forth? Another word for which is sharing, another phrase for which is mutual aid, the gardener's disposition, or even more to the point, practice. Because a garden, a healthy, thriving garden, tells us to.
I am most decidedly not a gardener. I have exactly 3 house plants that are holding on to life, and this is only because those 3 house plants are very hardy. One of them lives in my office, and it survived the pre-vax phase of the pandemic when I didn't come into my office for months at a time. So you can tell it's not my doing, really, keeping them alive. I am very much not a gardener. But, as is perhaps obvious, I am a minister. And I went to the First Parish in Bedford plant fair this spring, an event which our whole community comes together to create. It involves a lot of volunteers doing all kinds of helpful things, including creating a bake sale and recruiting artists to sell crafts and getting all those plants together, and it's a lot. The kids in our faith development plant little plants, and they come up as seedlings, and it's all very beautiful and exciting. And at that event, I bought a cardboard box full of tomato plants. I had no idea anything about buying tomato plants, but I trust First Parish in Bedford, and I trust whatever they put out for sale. I brought them home to my housemates, who put them into our raised bed in our jungle of a backyard. And they are growing quite well. I ate some the other day with some pasta with pesto on it. It was delicious. I am not a gardener, but I am, sometimes despite myself, an organizer, a coordinator, someone who makes things happen. And you see, I was part of this farm share, where a group of us, mostly people who lived in Somerville and Cambridge, would drive to a farm out in Dover, Mass, to get a share of organic vegetables and bring them back to the city, and then we would pick them up from someone's porch. And it was a cooperative. We'd take turns driving to the farm, put them on the porch, people pick them up. The thing is, I live in Malden, and while Malden is close to Somerville, it's not the most convenient to drive down there in traffic. So I thought, great idea. I'll just make a little crew in Malden that does the same thing. So I reached out to various people I knew in Malden and in the winter and got some interest, and I thought, yeah, and I have lots of time to get this together before spring, and it will be totally fine. And I, let the farmer know I'm going to start a new little node in Malden, and asked him about the timeline and details, and we were all sailing along. But my spring got a little extra exciting because those of you who attend this congregation know our Director of Faith Development for Children left us unexpectedly. I'm the Minister of Faith Development. I took over the children's programming, and things just got a little more chaotic than I anticipated. And as often happens with things I'm trying to coordinate and make happen, the node of the farm share fell by the wayside. And then I thought, oh gosh, I think I've missed the deadline for even making this happen. Maybe I can just get back in the Somerville node and no one will be the wiser. Except that on Memorial Day weekend, when I wasn't thinking anything about it, I got a text from the farmer saying, no one has come to pick up the Malden share yet. I said, why do I always do this? Why do I always think that I can start some new thing and make something happen? Why can't I leave well enough alone? Oh, I was so frustrated with myself, but I didn't want to let Farmer Chris down. I found out that we were the first new node of his farm share co-ops in 10 years. He was so excited. I didn't want to let down Farmer Chris. It's hard to be an organic vegetable farmer on a small local farm. So I texted all the people who had expressed interest and told them, surprise, you are in a farm share. And the people were very kind about it. But I realized there weren't enough of us to really make it sustainable. One of the parties couldn't even go on Saturday to pick up the vegetables because of their schedule. So that left only a couple of us to do all those drives to Dover. Oh my goodness. So then I had to post on social media and find more people, but we put it together. I did the first few schleps out to the farm, but we made it. And now we're in a rhythm. And although I initially regretted my choice to try to start something new, now I have to say I'm grateful. For example, when Grace came by to pick up her share off my porch, she noticed an invasive species growing in our front, it's not really a lawn, but front patch of plants. In our front patch of plants. And she said, do you know this invasive? It's horrible, and butterflies mistake it for milkweed, and it kills them, and we have to uproot it. Some of you are nodding. You know what this is. I don't remember the name, but you know what it is. It twists around things. It's got those little purple flowers. Yeah. So she said, oh, we got to root this up. So we started pulling up all of the weed and the invasive species, and now when I see it out and about, when I'm walking around, I can't help myself. I just pull it out of people's front plant areas. And then there was Miles who came by to pick up his share, and my housemate was looking for a stroller cover for her trip, and so he has kids. I said, do you have a stroller cover? He did. I went over, and then I noticed his rhubarb in the front area of plants. And I said, oh my gosh, I haven't made a rhubarb pie yet this season, and I love rhubarb. Oh, then he said, harvest my rhubarb. I already got mine. I got the rhubarb. And then he actually brought me the rhubarb plants themselves a while later so that I could plant my own rhubarb and have it for next season. And then there was Daniel who came by to pick up his share and noticed that we had a big pile of soil on our patio that we were putting into different parts of our back area of plants. And he said, oh, I need some soil. Do you need all that? And we said, no, please take it. We bought it in bulk, and it is way too much. So he carted away soil, and he used them to plant seedlings, and then he gave us some of those pepper seedlings and we put them in the raised beds. Ross Gay would be proud. And I do think there's something about growing food that inspires generosity. Sometimes it's just practical. You have too many zucchini. But also there's the generosity of the earth. Something about how those tomatoes grow like magic, and then they're red and ripe and juicy in the sun. Something about how you can cut a rhubarb plant in half, and then it's 2 rhubarb plants in 2 different locations. Nature is so abundant, which is one of the conclusions that Gay comes to as well, when he says, and why this back and forth? Another word for which is sharing, another phrase for which is mutual aid. The gardener's disposition, or more to the point, practice? Because a garden, a healthy, thriving garden tells us to. And indeed, I know that we are a people of sharing. And so now is going to be a time when you can share in the offering, but also, you may have been given a blue card when you came in, and if you didn't, I will be honest, I didn't expect such a healthy turnout at a summer service. Look what a consortium can do. So if you didn't, I'm sorry, but maybe you can share with a neighbor if you want to participate. There also ought to be writing utensils. There's a lot of little pencils at the end of the pews that are meant for the blue cards, and you can take those. Some of the pews have bigger pencils. You might have your own writing utensil with you. So we'll do some mutual aid of writing utensils too. And those who are on Zoom can participate in the chat if you would like to, just by typing into the chat. And I'd like you to write down or type in the chat, if you feel so moved, always optional, something that you have given or received recently that was meaningful. As simple as that. Something you have given or received. It could be a meal, it could be a craft, it could be some time. You drove someone to the airport, they took you to the doctor. Anything along those lines. A gift that was given out of creativity and out of care. Perhaps not an expensive gift, but a gift of the heart that you have given or received. And then our actual money offering will also be collected, and that is going to pay our child care provider who's doing summer worship services, as well as to You the Vote, which is a Unitarian Universalist endeavor to register and get out voters in this important election season. So please give generously as you are able, as we will collect the offering and also collect the cards, and of course Zoom chat, well, we'll collect you virtually. Thank you. abundance! Look at all of these. We are not going to read all of these, but I do want to give a few examples. So on Zoom, I see, weeded at our community garden, harvests go to the Burlington Food Pantry. Very on theme. Watching the birds, hearing them singing, that's a real gift. I received a note of thanks for the quality of professional care I rendered. Oh, that's important. That's important. Time with my daughter, searching for a new used car. Yes, even errands can be quality time. A day at the beach when I needed it. That's important too. Giving my brother support. Gave my niece 2 nights at a motel to visit family. Oh, that's wonderful. Helped a neighbor with the internet. These are important things as well. I gave a goth birthday party for a dear friend this week. Such happiness we shared. I love that. I don't even know what that looks like, but I love it. I gave a book, History of the Breast, to a neighbor, to a friend who had undergone a breast cancer scare. Very thoughtful. Helping my brother and his husband with their surrogacy so they can soon be parents. Oh, it's very dear. All right, I'll just do 2 more because these are so sweet. Though sometimes handwriting is a challenge. David gives me rides to church. Thank you, David. I was given a ride to church today. Another ride to church. What a good thing to give someone. I will be taking Polly to see where a repairman is. Oh, to see an auto repairman. Again, the errands. These are important things. So as you can see, you all have given and received a lot. And it's wonderful. And I can set these out at Community Hour if you'd like to see some of the other wonderful things that you've given and received. The phrase mutual aid that Ross Gay uses in his essay really caught my ear when I was listening. I tend to listen to my books. As my daughter said this morning, sometimes you read with your eyes. Only sometimes. I mostly read with my ears, which is to say I listen to audiobooks that I check out from the library on the Libby app. And I was listening to these essays that way, though I also have a physical copy of the book. And when I was listening to this essay that really inspired me, I noticed when he said mutual aid. And the reason it stuck out to me was because back in September, mutual aid was listed as one of the many hallmarks of criminal enterprise that was identified by the Attorney General of the state of Georgia. He was indicting activists who were trying to stop Cop City. As it says on the Stop Cop City website, Atlanta Police Foundation is trying to build the largest police training facility in the United States in Weelaunee Forest, a watershed surrounded by primarily Black residents who overwhelmingly oppose the project. The plans include military-grade training facilities, a mock city to practice urban warfare, dozens of shooting ranges, and a Black Hawk helicopter landing pad. And as you can imagine, there have been many different activists and organizers working to stop this project. Indigenous people who call the Weelaunee Forest their ancestral home, environmental activists who don't want to see forests destroyed, people who move in the Black Lives Matter movement and other movements to abolish or defund the police, and a lot of other people, too, who have gotten involved working together to prevent this project from being built in the forest. In September of 2023, many of these activists were charged under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations, or RICO, law. The indictment spends pages vilifying the grassroots movement, and as the ACLU writes, it paints the provision of mutual aid, the advocacy of collectivism, and even the publishing of zines as hallmarks of a criminal enterprise. Mutual aid, a threatening crime. Of course, it's not a threatening crime when it's things like mostly white people in a mostly affluent suburb sharing their plants and their rides to doctor's appointments and their medical equipment and their goods and services and their love and their time, as so often happens here. And I don't know if your neighborhood or congregation or some other group you're part of is so full of mutual aid as First Parish in Bedford, but it is one of the things I love about us. We have an announcements list, but oftentimes the announcements are a little more like, I need a ride to the doctor. Does anybody need this tool I have on hand? Or does anybody need this special chair I no longer need? Or I need a yard tool, or what have you. But mutual aid can be threatening to the status quo when it is used to strengthen communities that are calling out the violence of our systems and that are saying that things do not have to be this way and should not be this way. It is threatening to those who are hoarding the power and the money when we, who are not hoarding it, share it amongst ourselves. It is really easy to normalize so many forms of violence in this wildly violent world. And Ross Gay has some words of wisdom about that too, that I found profound. I think they're worth hearing as a separate reading. It's kind of its own little mini sermon.
So we left Ross Gay in the lovely garden of mutual aid. Now let's take a little bit of a different look. It is now probably a useful time to address a question that might be looking for you, which is something along the lines of, yeah, but isn't gardening a privilege? How could he be talking about gardens at a time like this? By which you mean the experiences I'm talking about, and which I'm saying are connected to joy, are not afforded to those who do not have access to a garden, green space, etc. Gardens and joy, the question understands, are privileges. Great point. And one thing I want to be cautious of, by which I really mean refuse, are the ways we sometimes consider, for instance, gardening, or health care, or portable water, by which I think he means potable water, or clean air, or pleasant and stable housing, or decent jobs, or good schools, or libraries, or living relatives, or being unabused, or having free time, or not being in prison, or not living near a power plant, or an incinerator, or landfill, or a million acres of corn or soy being sprayed with toxins. A privilege which actually obscures the fact that being without a garden, to be without green space, to be without access to a park or clean water or the forest or fruit trees or birds or shade or a deep and abiding relationship with a tree, or to be without health care, and so often to be without health, is violence, is abnormal, even if it is the norm, and it is an imposition of precarity that is not natural.
Living in this unnatural imposition of precarity can be stressful, to say the least. And one practice that helps me is singing. Some of you probably know this song. It's by Mamuse, and we've sung it quite a few times at First Parish in Bedford. I don't know if all of you know it, so I'm going to take a moment to teach it, and then we'll sing it through again in a moment. It's called We Shall Be Known, and the words are in your order of service. And so I'll sing a phrase and you sing it back, and that's how we'll move through it. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. And what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Let's put it all together once now, and we'll do it again later. Thank you, the ever-brilliant Steve Sussman, for having my back always. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Just the other day, my mother told me her mother always grew a hearty pinto-type bean they called a Dutch bean that her grandmother had always grown. Though my mother made a face that I'm pretty sure meant she didn't love it, my granny obviously did, and it fed my mother all the same. I suspect my great-grandmother, Biggie, when she fled Port Gibson, Mississippi for Youngstown, Ohio in 1913, brought with her some seeds with which to create the garden she fed everyone from. We all are made of these stories, even if we do not know them. People saved these seeds because they loved these seeds, and they thought that we might love them too. Despite, and it's crucial we remember this, despite those people sometimes having just barely survived a drought or a famine, or being rounded up on a forced march, or put into the hold of a ship to hell. Whoever saved the seed loved us before they knew us. And some of them loved us as their world was ending. Our gardens archive that love.
I get a tiny lump in my throat every time I hear the phrase, "And the people who saved these seeds loved us before they knew us." The first time I heard it while I was listening to the audiobook, I started to cry, because it made me feel so hopeful. And I don't feel hopeful a lot these days, to be honest. I feel hopeful about things like my awesome kid or my own personal life and the fact that someday we may clear out the jungle of invasive species in our backyard and have something resembling a yard. But I don't feel very hopeful about the state of the world very often. It does seem sometimes like the world is ending. Climate change and the rise of fascism all over the globe do not bode well for life on Earth. But then it's so helpful to think about these seed savers. It's helpful to remember that when their world was ending, some of them saved seeds because they believed that life is persistent, because they loved humanity despite it all. And there is abundance from something so small, one seed that makes a plant that makes the fruit that makes a bunch more seeds. There are a million ways to resist despair. And there are a million ways to resist the violent systems that are trying to hoard the power and the money. Mutual aid and gratitude for those who went before us are only two of the ways, and they are very good and very accessible ways. And so as we close, I want to invite you to get comfortable for just a moment, to close your eyes if that feels good, or unfocus your gaze. Settle into yourself. And to hold in your heart or in your mind someone who loved you before they knew you. And you might be thinking of a specific ancestor, whether that's biological or spiritual or cultural. Or you might not have a specific person in mind, just the idea of a person sometime in the past who may have survived or have been in the process of surviving unthinkable calamities and violence and hardship, but who believed in the persistence of life and saved something to pass forward, a seed or a recipe or a song or a story. And I invite you to just be in gratitude that that person passed something forward for you. It is a miraculous wonder that we are here at all. And it is good to sometimes remember that and be in that gratitude. We will sing our closing song, which will be "We Shall Be Known" again together. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. one more time. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great journey we shall learn to lead in love. In this great journey we shall learn to lead in love. What a time to be alive. In the summer, with the tomatoes ripening, on an earth with so much persistent life. What a time to be alive. May we remember that life is a gift, but not a privilege. May we follow paths of gratitude and hope. And may we give like gardeners.